You know those dystopian novels you read in school, the ones that made you think, wow, thank God that's not real? Well, what if it is? What if those dark, controlling worlds from science fiction aren't fiction anymore? What if they're a lot closer to our daily lives than any of us want to admit?
So let me just ask you this, right at the start. Are you trapped? Right now, as you're listening to this? It's a heavy thought, I know, but it's really at the heart of what we're about to get into, because those shiny gadgets that promise us all this convenience, they might just be invisible chains.
And this is the core of the problem, right? On one side, you have these imagined nightmares from books, and on the other, you have the everyday tech sitting right in your pocket. The line between them, it's getting really, really blurry. And tonight we're asking, has that line just disappeared completely?
So let's open up our first case file. Let's talk about surveillance. It's the absolute foundation of pretty much every dystopian story ever written. But is it also the foundation of our modern world?
I mean, this is the quote that started it all, right? George Orwell's chilling warning from 1984. The idea of some entity that sees everything you do. It was terrifying back then because it takes away the one thing we all assume is ours, our privacy. It still sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it?
Now, check this out. Orwell imagined this thing called a telescreen that was forced on people, a screen that watches you. But today, we have this smart device, a screen we willingly stare at for hours and hours a day. That also just happens to be watching and listening to everything we do.
And maybe the most terrifying thing Orwell came up with was the thought police, actual people punishing you for what you think. Well, today's version isn't a person in a trench coat, it's an algorithm. It's AI that doesn't punish your thoughts, it just predicts and influences your behavior based on every single click, every search, and yeah, every conversation it overhears.
And this isn't some conspiracy theory. Your phone's mic is always on, just waiting for you to say its wake word. Smart speakers like Alexa and Google Home, they're recording private family conversations and beaming them off to a server somewhere. And remember those temporary COVID tracking apps? Well, in a lot of places, they kind of just became permanent surveillance tools. The eye that never sleeps isn't on some poster anymore, it's right there in your pocket.
Okay, on to case file number 2, because control isn't always about fear and being watched. Sometimes it's about pleasure. Welcome to the very real world of emotional control.
Aldous Huxley's Brave New World painted a totally different kind of dystopia, and maybe a more clever one. It was a world where nobody was oppressed with force. Instead, everyone was just kept docile and happy and compliant through nonstop entertainment and this little happiness drug called soma.
So, what's our soma? What's our little pill for instant happiness today? Well, it's the social media feed. Soma was a drug for instant, totally fake happiness. Our feed, it's an endless scroll for instant digital validation. You know, the likes, the shares, the comments. And oh boy, are we hooked. The average person now spends over 3 hours every single day on social media. Think about that. That's not just a little habit. That is a huge chunk of our waking lives that we dedicate to the scroll.
And here's the scary part. These platforms are engineered to be addictive. Their algorithms are literally designed like digital slot machines in a casino. They feed you just enough of what you want to keep you pulling the lever or, swiping the screen. They're designed to prioritize stuff that makes you feel strong emotions, outrage, jealousy, validation, because that guarantees you'll stay plugged in, even while it's messing with our mental health and making it impossible to have a normal conversation.
So, they're watching us. They're keeping us distracted and hooked. But what about what we're actually allowed to learn? Let's open our final case file on the most subtle form of control out there, information censorship.
You remember Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451? The firemen didn't put out fires. They started them. They burned books to destroy knowledge, to get rid of critical thought. Well, today, you don't need a flamethrower to destroy knowledge. You just need an algorithm, one that quietly, silently, buries any deep, complex ideas under a massive pile of shallow, viral junk.
So be honest with yourself for a second. When was the last time you really truly disconnected and just read a book, cover to cover, without checking your phone once? Yeah. For a lot of us, it's been a while.
And there is a chilling reason for that. Get this. Recent studies show that the average human attention span has now dropped to less than 8 seconds. That is officially shorter than the attention span of a goldfish. I'm not kidding. We're literally being rewired to want short, flashy content instead of deep, meaningful knowledge.
So these classic authors were writing their warnings back in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, but these ideas, they didn't just go away. No way. They just escalated. They evolved into our own modern nightmares.
You can see the progression so clearly. First, you had the foundations, the original warnings from Orwell, Huxley, and Bradbury. Then, in the 2010s, you get shows like Black Mirror, which basically just held up a mirror to the weird digital lives we were already living. And now we have the metaverse promising this whole new frontier where our virtual lives could end up being more important than our real ones.
Just think about that famous Black Mirror episode, Nosedive. You know, the one where everyone's rating each other out of 5 stars and your score literally dictates your life? That's not science fiction anymore. We live a version of that every single day with Uber ratings, Airbnb reviews, and this constant chase for likes that just turns human connection into another transaction.
So, we've gone through the case files. Surveillance, emotional control, information censorship, all the evidence has been presented. I guess it's time for the verdict.
And the verdict is this. The lines have absolutely undeniably blurred. The gap between those old dystopian stories and our reality with technology is collapsing. In so many ways, we are living inside the very stories our grandparents read as a terrifying warning about what the future could be.
But listen, this isn't meant to be a cause for despair. It's a call to action. And the first step is just awareness. Just recognizing that these apps and devices are designed to influence you. Once you see that, the next steps are actually pretty practical. You can limit your screen time and reclaim your focus. You can use privacy tools like VPNs and take back a little control of your data. And maybe the most important one, you can practice the lost art of just disconnecting, intentionally putting the phone down and looking up at the world.
You know, these books were never just stories. They were warnings. They were a chance for us to see the path we were heading down and choose a different one. And that choice, it's still ours to make. So are you ready to wake up from this digital dream and escape the trap before it's too late?